Hey guys, hi, we're back and we're solving data structures and algorithm questions in JavaScript again. And so let me take you to my screen and tell you what question that we have for today. So the question that we have is you're given an array and a size. You need to divide that array into subarrays of the given size and return those subarrays inside an array. It sounds confusing. When you put it out in verbal form, it is confusing, but let me show you this by example that you can see on the screen already, and hopefully that makes it easier to understand. Essentially, let's say you're given this array with elements from 1 through 10, and you're given a size of 3, right? What you need to do is you need to create chunks out of that array of the given size. So for the size is 3, the first 3 elements, they get into a chunk 1, 2, 3, and then the next 3, 4, 5, 6, the next 3, 7, 8, 9. And now we don't have enough elements to complete the chunk, but we still have 10. We return that as a singular element, and we need to return that in an array itself. Whenever I have to make sub-arrays, the first thing that I think of instantly is slicing an array. Okay, I'll tell you what I mean by that. Let's create an example array. Right. Okay, let me make sure that the array is properly formatted. Great. Now, if I have to create sub-arrays from this array, I use slice. The way slice works is it takes two indices. It takes two numerical values, which are indices of where you want to start the slice and where you want to end the slice. Essentially, what I'm saying is, let's say I want to have 2 and 3 as my sub-array. I will start the index from 0 because I want to include 0. And I will end the index at 2. What I mean by that is when I end the index at 2, it will not include 4. It will only include up to that value. So 0 and 1, not 2, but we have to give it till 2. I'll show you what I mean by that. So let me slice this example array. And it's a function, like I said, takes two values. The first value is 0 because I want to start at the 0th index. And if I want to capture this value, I want to give index till this value. So this is 0, 1, 2. Let me give it 2. Now, let's wrap this up in a console log and let's see what it returns. Let me run this. Well, I didn't save it. I didn't save it. Wait, let me run this. And it has given us 2 and 3. Now, the funny thing is, in fact, not the funny thing, but the interesting thing is, if I want the next two elements in the array, right? So if I want the next 2, I will increase it by 2 and add 2 to this. This becomes 4, right? Save it. And I'm going to run it. We get 4 and 6. I hope you are seeing reason of why I'm telling you this. I hope you have already started forming an answer in your head. We're going to use this, essentially this implementation, and I'm going to wrap that up in a for loop. Let me write a function for it. So const chunk this array. It takes two parameters and it returns something. We'll come to it in a while. So it takes two parameters. It takes an array and it takes the chunk size. Let me write it as such, chunk size. And it returns a chunked array. But we don't have a chunk array. Let's just initialize an empty array as the chunk array. Let me initialize an empty array. Great. So now if I call this function, it will simply return this chunked array to me as an empty array. But that's not what we want. We want it to be full of arrays of the chunk size. Let me write a for loop for it. And let's start the index at 0 as we discussed earlier. And as long as the index is less than the length of the array, we want to slice that array. So array.slice, not set interval, array.slice, slice it from index all the way till index plus chunk size. On the next iteration of this for loop, I want the index to be or I can write it as such plus equal to chunk size. So for the next iteration, index will be plus equal to chunk size. So index will be index plus chunk size. I can now simply push it inside the chunk array that I made. So chunked array push. Let me first capture this in a temporary array. Or in fact, instead of calling it the temporary array, let's call it chunk. Flows better. Let's push the chunk inside the chunked array and return it. So if we have coded everything as we wanted it to, if our logic is right, which I'm pretty sure it is, we'll get the solution as we were looking for. Let me call this function chunk this array. And let's use this example. Let's call this given array. And let given chunk size C. So it takes the given array and the given chunk size. And if I wrap this up in a console log, it will return as expected. So let me wrap this up in a console log. Let me try and run this. And we're getting an error. That's nice. Oh, I see. I made a syntax error, which is why it was giving an error. Great. So if you see the result, this is what we were expecting. And this is what we got. So we have the solution. Nice, right? Simple and easy. A quick video. Well, I do understand that this implementation that I've written is, it may sound confusing. It may look confusing. It's definitely not the most readable of the implementation. So let me go ahead and write a more readable implementation of the same logic. And this time I'm going to use a while loop. Why a while loop? Well, first of all, just for lulz. And second of all, it makes it more readable, at least in my opinion. So let me do this again. Let me write this as a function, chunk this array. And again, it takes two parameters, the array and the chunk size. Now I'm going to reuse the logic that I had written above, simply because this is a different implementation, but this logic remains the same. So first of all, let me initialize an empty chunked array and return it. So now let me reuse the logic. Let me write a while loop here. And let me write the condition. The condition is as long as the index is less than array.length, is less than the length of the array. But the eagle-eyed amongst you would have immediately noticed that we don't have the index. So this will fail because this is undefined, right? So let me initialize the index here. Let me initialize it as 0. And let's write the logic here. I'm going to simply copy paste this logic here. I want the index to be increased by the size of the chunk array. I'm going to write this here, uncomment this part out. This should work just as expected. So, just to make sure that this is a new implementation, I'm going to change the given chunk size. So instead of 3, I'm going to make it 4. And let's see if this works. It is working as expected. Nice, right? Well, I can reduce this down further into, at least, the logic can be a single line. So instead of chunk.push chunk, I can simply stick all of it here. Literally put this here, get rid of this line. This should be the same logic. Again, let me increase the chunk size. In fact, change the chunk size just to make sure that This is a new run of the program. So let me run this program, no chunk array, and yeah, as expected, in the interest of time, this is going to be it for the recording today. I intentionally wanted it to be a quick stream. Like I said, I had been very busy in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I wanted to be consistent. So quick stream just so that I could get back into the groove. And I'll see you next week with another question. You know what? Go on, like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about this if you find any use in this. And I'll see you next week. Bye.